Hi, a little bit flatter today, but okay. Um, it's just one of those cyclical moments. No, I'm fine to carry on today. It's quite good actually. When I said yesterday that I was doing this video for three reasons, one of those reasons was me, and to see a flatter me as opposed to the one that you saw yesterday, it's a good thing for me. Yes, when I mentioned insufficient treatment, the treatment available is absolutely fantastic. I was probably misquoting myself there. Realistically, the problem with the treatment, certainly in the UK, is access to it, and it can take months, years, even longer to access treatment in the first place. And then you can be talking another few years before that will finally work. When I talk about mental health not being discussed enough, and perhaps using the wrong terminology, I'm talking about mental illness not being discussed enough. Mental health is still under talked about, even though it is highly publicised and there is a lot of press about mental health. Mental illness is slightly different in my eyes in that mental illness is diagnosable. It is a long-term condition, and mental illness is still not discussed as much. People discuss having low mood and high mood and depression and stress and anxiety. There is a lot less discussion about people who have bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and other mental illness that appears on that sort of scale. Bipolar disorder, to me, it is, I prefer the term manic depression. Bipolar disorder is definitely the medical term. However, I feel that bipolar is very much very, very high, very, very low, nothing in the middle. And that's how that sort of explanation fits. Manic depression is more of a range. You can have various levels of mania and hypermania. You can have very different levels of depression. You can have low mood, you can have clinical depression. So that's basically why I prefer manic depression as a term. To be diagnosed with bipolar, you generally need to have some sort of hypomanic or manic state. Depression alone, clinical depression, is very rarely a strong indicator of bipolar. A hypomanic or manic state is a strong indicator of bipolar. You will find there are people that have never had the depressive side, very few, but there are some that haven't had the depressive side, but they have had the mania. You very rarely find someone who has had the depression and never had any sort of hypomania or manic event. Mania is typified by elevated mood, rapid thoughts, a feeling of invincibility, and basically being able to do anything. You would tend to find people take on lots of things at the same time. It's probably important to say that full-blown mania can lead to psychosis or paranoia, and some people with full-blown mania will go to the top of a building and believe that they can fly, believe that they are God. Obviously not everyone is in that category, but that is sort of full mania where psychosis or paranoia is there. Hypomania is slightly different. Hypomania does not have psychosis or paranoia. It can be partial psychosis, but never full. And it basically is a situation where you still have the elevated state, you still have the rapid thoughts, you still have the feelings of invincibility. I experience hypomania, so I can probably talk more about hypomania. But for me, hypomania has seen me starting businesses that fail. It's seen me spend lots of money. It's also seen me do very, very strange things. And for me, hypomania, the manic state, is the most dangerous when you're talking about something like suicidal risk, because you are full of energy and you are able to do that, which you wouldn't be in depression. Clinical depression is a feeling of low mood, extremely low mood. That can be anything from being very upset about something right through to the depths of darkness. Churchill used to call it his black dog, which is where you're sort of unable to do anything. The very extreme of clinical depression is a catatonic state. That is where someone basically is breathing and awake, but completely incommunicado. Depression is the upsetting part, and it's the part where someone with manic depression can be very, very selfish, which is against their idea. I'm in that position. I've been in that position many times. Yes, I agree that a lot of people suffer from depression. A lot of people suffer low periods. A lot of people suffer clinical depression. You can't say that everyone that suffers depression has manic depression, because it's the mania side that is different. And some depression is caused by a chemical imbalance. Sometimes it's just a trigger. Whereas with manic depression, the depression and the mania, they are all chemical induced, even with a trigger. A mixed state. Well, I'm suffering a mixed state at the moment, or have been for a while. And a mixed state is basically where you are not purely hypomanic and you are not purely depressed. The two are together. With some people, they will experience a day of mania, a day of depression, basically that close. What seems very strange to me this time is that I experienced the depression and all of the drive and determination of mania at exactly the same time, and that proved to be very, very dangerous. Yeah, everyone does have mood changes. Everyone has highs and lows. Everyone has really bad periods. Everyone has really good periods. I agree with that. Quite honestly, I don't know how my mood changes compare with anyone else, because I've never experienced normal changes in mood. What I would say is that with my mood changes, a lot of it is chemical, and even though there are triggers, it is the chemical imbalance that is the issue, and that is a natural high and a natural low. Is bipolar rare, manic depression? In the UK, there are about 1.3 million with bipolar. And that equates to about 1 to 2% of the population. It is thought that there are probably 5% of the population on the bipolar spectrum with some level of mood disorder. That basically means this is not a rare condition. It puts it well above things like dementia, and it is on a par with cancer. No, it's not an illness that can be caught. It's an illness that is genetic. It is a chemical imbalance, and it is not something that someone can catch unless they have that chemical imbalance. Life events do tend to trigger the first symptoms. That's why the majority of a lot of people aged 17, 18 first see the first symptoms of manic depression, bipolar. However, it's not a condition that can be caused by life events. It's merely that they are a trigger. Whilst bipolar is genetic, manic depression is genetic, I will be honest, I have no knowledge of any member of my family who was actually diagnosed manic depressive, which it would have been at the time. However, there are members of my family for whom I'm a direct descendant diagnosed. There's no suggestion that one of them, there was no suggestion they had a mood disorder. However, diagnoses now, it's very difficult to get a diagnosis, and if you were to think 1930s, 40s, 50s, that diagnosis just wasn't there. How did I find out I'd got manic depression? Well, I was officially diagnosed in 2009. However, I had self-diagnosed prior to seeing a psychiatrist. Self-diagnosis is not unusual at all. You will find a lot of people with manic depression have self-diagnosed before receiving an official diagnosis. However, I showed signs of it back when I was 17. That's when I first sort of showed the signs, and then 3 depressive episodes later, I actually got the final diagnosis.